Howdy, and welcome, my little boo things. My name is Nena Necahual, or NoSaboNena, and today I'll be introducing myself and sharing a fun little scary story with y'all. So, who am I exactly? I'll be honest, I don't entirely know yet. I'm still figuring myself out for the most part. But all existential and philosophical pondering aside, I'm a weird girl who has always had a deep love and appreciation for storytelling in all of its forms. I especially love ghost stories, folklore, history, and mythology. I'm not a scholar in any of these fields, but I still want to share these stories with others, create a community, and give them the same joy I feel when I first hear new tales. But enough about me for now. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What story am I sharing with y'all today? If you're Tejano, Chicano, or any other flavor of Mexican or Mexican-American, then you've most certainly heard some version of this story before. She's one of the many cucuys we've heard our parents warn us about when we misbehaved, including the dreaded chancla. And if you somehow haven't heard of her before, I don't know, man. Finish watching this video, I guess, and learn something new. Anyways, you know her, you fear her, and because of her, you know better than to linger too close to the river at night. I am going to tell you all the tale of La Llorona, otherwise known as the Weeping Woman. There have been many versions of her story. When I told my mom I was working on this script, she said that everyone seems to have their own version of the Weeping Woman. It happened on this side of town or that side of town, or someone says that someone in their family saw her or was almost taken by her. I myself have heard many variations of her story, along with unsettling accounts from people who have encountered her. In college, one of my classmates told me about how he saw La Llorona late one night while staying with family out in the West Texas desert. He told me about how she loomed over the crib of his baby cousin and how scared he was that they were going to be taken that night. Thankfully, he told me, nothing bad happened to that cousin of his, but he was afraid for weeks after seeing her because her presence is a bad omen. Now, La Llorona is a tale that's had the smaller details of it change over the years, but some key elements remain the same. La Llorona, the Weeping Woman, was once a beautiful young woman named Maria, who had 3 children with her husband, who either leaves her for another woman or dies. And when Maria is left to take care of her children alone, she kills them by drowning them in the nearby river. As punishment for the sin of killing her own children, God banishes her forever to wander the rivers of the world, looking for her children's lost remains. Those are the bones of her story. But I doubt that is leaving anyone particularly satisfied, so I'll be reading 2 stories, both from the book Mexican Ghost Tales of the Southwest by Alfred Avila. I found this book in middle school, and while I had heard stories about La Llorona before, something about this compilation stuck with me, and now I'm going to share it with all of you. So, get yourselves cozy, and let's begin. A long time ago, in the old days, there lived a woman in Mexico. Life was hard for her because her husband had died, and she was left with 3 small children. In time, the children became a burden for the woman. She longed for the gaiety and the dancing at the fiestas as an escape from her daily responsibilities. For this reason, the woman would go out and leave the children to fend for themselves. And because they were hungry and hurt from the beatings they received at her hands, the children cried often. One day, tired of hearing her children's endless weeping and pleading for food, the woman forced them into a sack and dragged them to a nearby river, swollen from the rains in the mountains. Although the children cried out to their mother, begging her to release them, they did not suspect the grim fate she had in store for them. As the woman dragged the sack slowly to the water's edge, she could hear her children cry out, "Please, Mother, please." Still, she was determined to cast off the yoke that hung around her neck, because her heart was hard and cruel. "Oh, to be rid of these troublesome children," she thought. Finally, the mother pushed the sack off the bank into the river with one quick move. She could hear her children's terrified screaming as they tumbled into the swift, swirling waters that swallowed them into eternity. Afterwards, the woman walked away, happy. At last she was free. The woman continued her loose, wicked life until she finally died. Her soul was then taken before God for judgment. Trembling and sorrowful, she stood before the Almighty. "You," God said to her, "are to be pitied. Not only have you sinned greatly during your time on earth, but you committed the greatest sin of all. You killed your own children. Therefore, you are condemned to roam the rivers of the world until you find their bones. You will find no rest until then, and you will wander about crying until the end of the world." If some night, when there is no moon, you happen to hear a long, mournful, howling cry by the river, beware. It may be La Llorona, the weeping woman, looking for her children. Stay away from the river, because you don't want her to find you in the dark. The river water gleamed and flashed as Mundo waded across with his dog Sapo. The boy hesitated on a small sandbank in the middle of the river. He patted Sapo's head and rubbed it with his hand. The dog wagged his tail, acknowledging his master's touch. The boy looked at the opposite bank, at a large grove of acorn trees. "That's a good place to go into the grove," he mused. He started again to cross the river toward the acorn grove. Once he reached the riverbank, the boy took hold of a small branch and pulled himself out of the stream onto dry land, where Sapo was already shaking the excess water off of his body. As the boy and the dog wandered into the grove, they heard a sad, mournful sound from the treetops. The sound kept repeating itself as they walked deeper and deeper into the trees. It was the call of a mourning dove. Beneath Mundo's and Sapo's feet, there was a blanket of leaves that made a crushing sound when the boy and the dog walked on it. Near the hillside, Mundo noticed that the trees were larger and the grove was thicker in the area, so that very little sunlight could filter through the branches. "What a gloomy, dark place," Mundo said. In the meantime, while a cricket in the shadows made a chirping sound, Sapo was sticking his nose into piles of leaves, sniffing and sniffing. After a while, Mundo realized he had lost track of time. It was very silent in the grove, with no other sound except for the sad call of the mourning dove. Standing in the shadows of the grove, Mundo began to remember the many stories of the river that the old men from the barrio told when they gathered to gossip and exchange tales. He also began to regret that he had not listened to his mother when she warned him to stay away from the Rio Hondo, because of the strange things that had happened there. Now it was completely silent. The mourning dove had quit its cooing. Mundo sensed that something was wrong. There was a very strange odor in the air. Sapo's ears perked up as if listening to something. Worried, Mundo decided to turn back and find his way to the riverbank. but he could not remember how he had come. The only sound now was the crackling of the dry leaves under his feet, and around him it was getting darker and darker. The sun is going down. I must get back to the riverbank before it disappears, he said to himself. Mundo did not know how long he had been in the grove, though he thought he had at least a couple of hours before sunset. He did not want to be caught by the river at night. Finally, Mundo thought he could hear the gurgling of the river, and he began to make his way toward the sound. It was then that, suddenly, the boy was engulfed by a huge shadow from behind. The loud growling of his dog alerted him. The hair on the animal stood on end while he arched his back and showed his fangs, preparing to attack. Startled, Mundo turned to see what was happening. He stared ahead with Sapo snarling by his side. In front of them was a huge cone of leaves rising, swirling faster and faster, and on the upper reaches of the swirling, growing pile was the head of the feared one. Mundo could not speak or scream from the terror he felt. He was covered with goosebumps. He knew who that head belonged to. It was La Llorona, the weeping woman. Everybody knew her. It was a folly to attempt to run from her. In that moment of terror, he remembered the stories he had heard from his mother and his elders, that whomever is caught in La Llorona's clutches has but one fate: death. I'm going to die today. I've been so foolish, Mundo whimpered. La Llorona looked down on the boy, smiling viciously. A loud, terrible scream came from her mouth as the swirling column moved forward, slowly, very slowly, enjoying the terror of her two victims. Mundo knew what was about to happen, but although every nerve in his body screamed, "Run, run!" in his brain he remained frozen, staring at La Llorona. Her jet-black eyes stared back down at him while her infernal screaming rang over the whirlwind of leaves. Sapo crouched, snarling, determined to fight for his life, muscles flexed, blood pumping hard through his tense body. The swirling mass of leaves came closer and closer, and the screams became louder. Mundo clenched his fists. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he stood in the shadowy darkness waiting for the end. His sobs became frightened spasms when he saw through his misty eyes the huge, screaming, fang-filled mouth approaching and the jet-black eyes piercing through him. The end was drawing near. Sapo was barking and snarling in a last show of force. Then, like the sound of a bugle on the height of battle, a loud, sad cry of misery and suffering came from a distant acorn tree, filling the grove. It was the call of the mourning dove. The vicious whirlwind came to a sudden stop. The huge mass of leaves drifted, then tumbled to the earth. La Llorona had vanished, dissolving into nothingness. What had happened? What had driven La Llorona away? According to the barrio elders, all the birds in Noah's Ark were white. First, Noah chose a white raven to check the waters on the earth and report back to him if they had come down. But the raven did not return. It flew around and landed on the floating corpses of those who had drowned in the flood. It pecked their eyes out. In punishment, its white feathers were made black. Next, Noah sent a white dove to check the waters. The dove, tired from flying over the waters, decided to rest on a mountain peak and wash its feet. Because it did not report on time to report to Noah, it was also punished. Its white feathers were turned gray, and its feet became a bright red color. For this reason, the mourning dove cries so sadly and with such misery and shame. Noah had to send out another dove to finish the job. From that time forward, when the mourning dove looks down its red feet and sees its gray feathers, the memory of the shameful punishment it suffered for its wicked mistake makes it cry. In the same manner, that evening in the acorn tree grove by the banks of the Rio Hondo, the sad mourning sound of the dove made La Llorona remember her own wickedness. She was condemned to roam the rivers of the world for killing her own children. Overpowered by her feeling of guilt, she vanished. When it was all over, Mundo and Sapo turned and ran toward the sounds of the river. They ran through the fallen leaves as if they were rabbits chased by foxes. They jumped into the stream and headed for home, running without looking back, splashing across the water, across the sandbars, climbing the opposite bank of the river and across the fields. The low, mournful cooing of a dove in the dark acorn tree grove and the sound of the churning waters of the Rio Hondo filled the night. And there we have it. I'm not going to end our conversation about La Llorona here, but this is where we part ways for now. This is just part of a 2-part story, so if you want to learn more about La Llorona and other legends like her, subscribe, leave a comment below, give us a like, and stay tuned. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, you do not face the darkness alone. I'll take first watch for us. Have a good night.